Alright, today I'm going to be showing you how to do a CV axle replacement. This is going to be on the passenger side. The driver's side is going to be as similar to it, just probably slightly different looking. I think the passenger is more easier than the driver. First things first, we're going to have to lift up the car. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and start this video after the intro. But before we do that, make sure you give it a thumbs up, comment down below if you have any questions, and hit that subscribe button for more upcoming videos in the future. And thanks for watching. Alright, so first things first, basically you can lift up your car from right here. This is one of the jacking up points. If by any chance that you want to lay your jack stand like the way how I am, what you can do is you can lift it up from the subframe itself and then jack it right up. I have the other side lifted with the jack, and then I have this side lifted up. We'll be doing some other extra work, so I had everything all lifted up. So yeah, basically you're gonna need a pick to pop these guys right out, and then a 17 millimeter to take off the nuts. So you're gonna get the pick, make sure it's a little curved one. So we're gonna put it in the hole and then just pull right back. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and take off the lug nuts. These are 19 millimeter. So now we're going to go ahead and take off the CV axle nut. It's a 27 millimeter, but I'm using a 1 inch and 1/16 of an inch. Alright, so now we're going to go right here where the lower ball joint is, and we're going to pop off these. These are going to be a 14 mil triple square. So there's one right there, and then there's another bolt. So there's only two in total. So right here, oh, that's the bigger one. So you can get this at your local auto parts store. I got these ones from AutoZone. But again, if you just wanted to get one specific one, there's the part number. So again, it's a 14 and then 70070. Again, you can get this at your auto parts store. So when loosening this bolt, make sure that there's no debris inside, and make sure that this is fully seated in. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and stick our pry bar in between the ball joint and the spindle itself. So we're just going to push right there. We just want to break these two apart. Then once we get those two apart, then the rest is kind of history. Then we can just pull back this guy, and then from one end, we'll go ahead and push out the CV axle. We're able to do that now, but before we do that, just notice we got to take off the shock. So yeah, we'll do that first. And then for the shock, that's going to be a 21 millimeter. And there's another nut on the other side. So there's a nut right there. This one, we're going to go ahead and hold this while we're loosening up the bolt from the other side. Now we're going to go ahead and just tap this guy right out. And then at the same time, we're going to put this right here. So we're basically just going to help us pull this nut out. So while we're loosening it or spinning the bolt, we're basically just going to have this end right here just pull back. Alright, so we don't need to take it off all the way, just a good amount. I think we're going to have to take the spindle out from maybe from this side. We'll find out. I'll figure this out. And then for the CV axle, we're going to be using the 14 millimeter triple square again. So the same thing that we use for the ball joints. To keep the CV axle from moving, we're just going to be putting a flathead screwdriver in between the rotor fin. So right here on the caliper, and that'll prevent the CV axle from spinning. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and try to remove the axle from this side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pry down on this, the lower control arm. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pry down on the lower control arm, and at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and pull out the axle from this side. So the more lower I get, if I get the lower control arm more below the shock, then I can sneak it out. Or if you can compress your shock and get it right over it, so yeah, we can be able to sneak it out like that way too. So that'll require a little strength on that. So again, we'll Alright, so what I'm doing is I turn the wheel all the way to the right, depending on which side you are on. And I think I should be able to sneak out the axle just like this. And we're just going to pull it right back. And then should be able to pull it. Alright, so just like that, should be able to come right out. And then twist it at an angle so you can spin that out. Now I'm not going to lie, if you have a second hand, this would help out a lot. So what I'm doing right here, I have the wheel spin all the way to the right, and I'm pulling this guy, and then until I got the CV axle right here. And then I went ahead and lift this up, obviously, as you saw that, and then we're able to sneak out the axle. So now we're going to take off the intermediate shaft. So we're going to have two 13 millimeter bolts. So there's going to be one right here. I already loosened it up. And then the other one is going to be right above the axle. So right here. That's where the second one. So there's the first one's right here. If you can see it. And then the second one's right there. So we're going to go ahead and take off those two. Alright, now that we got both of those bolts out, we're going to go ahead and slide out the intermediate shaft. So we're going to go ahead and pull it this way, but I don't know if any fluid might come out, so we're going to find out right now. So, okay, so no fluid comes out. That one's full of grease. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take off the oil pans. We're going to need a 5 millimeter hex. Basically, the one I'm going to be using this one right here. It's gonna have a little ball tip end. The reason why I'm using it is because for that one specifically, just right there, I mean, might as well use it for the rest. The only reason why, I mean, I guess you can do it without taking off the CV axle, but I just rather take off the CV axle just because we're going to be applying silicone. So I feel like that we might have an issue. So in the bulletin says you can do it without it, but just doing this is my way and making sure there's no leaks because we don't want to do this again. We're going to go ahead and take it off, 5mm. You can get this one at Harbor Freight. This is an Icon. You can buy the house brand from Pittsburgh themselves. I just got this because I thought I'm just going to be using this more. I think this was around like $45. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to have to take off these side bolts. So it's going to be two 16mm, so one right here, and then there's one right here, but on the opposite side. So we're going to be taking off that one right there. I'll go ahead and pop those ones off first. So there's going to be a few in the oil pan. So there's going to be, I'm even going to show these. So there's one right there. Those are indentated in the pan. So there's another one right there and another one. So there's about like 4 in total that go through the pan pretty well. I guess there's one more screw that I missed. So right there, you see that one that's marked in green? We got to take that one off too as well. We're going to go ahead and take that guy off. And there we have it. That one also is a 16mm too as well. So now we have all of our bolts off. I still have a few screws in there, but we're going to go ahead and pry from the block in the pan right here. So there's this little notch right there. We're going to go ahead and pry that. So when taking down this pan, right here in this little notch, and this one right here, this little corner, that one you're going to have to kind of tilt it right down a little bit, just like that, so it could slide right out. Alright, so here's the oil pan after I cleaned it up. I didn't want to show that process, but basically I use like purple power to spray everything and then let it soak for about a few minutes and then pressure wash it out. If you don't have a pressure washer, you can get like one of these brushes from Harbor Freight. They will sell an assortment set. You can use the brass brush or the bristle brush. Make sure you don't use a steel brush or anything. The reason why I would recommend just to use only the bristle brush, because that it's not hard on the metal and that it won't scrape it, and then over time it'll oxidize more faster. It'll give it a different finish. So like it'll give it that kind of finish. This wasn't for me, but this was already prior on there being there. Now, so let's get back to this. Pretty much you're gonna need a pick. So the pick's going to be for in this side right here, and you're going to be going inside the holes. So when you get the pick, you're just going to be kind of swirling it out. You'll probably spend about maybe 15 minutes doing this. And then you'll have first you'll go up with the scraper. So first you'll scrape off. Don't dig into the metal, just kind of go along with it like this. And then you'll get mostly all the surface one. And then from there, use the pick and then go over with the brush. It doesn't need to be perfect. So once you start getting it, like, see if you can see that. So right there, see how there's like a little residue? I already went over with the pick, and then once you kind of go over, you'll just kind of break this over with the pick right here, like all the big pieces, and it'll break all off. You'll just kind of scrape it right in. Now you're not digging into the metal, like literally you just see how right here, I'm just kind of scratching it going along. And that's exactly what you want to do for that. Now for right here in the holes, you kind of want to put some pressure in this. And then you want to kind of like right here, those areas, you want to get those going. So I mean, yeah, that's pretty much how you would do that. And then, like I said, once you get right back to those areas, you'll scrape that up with the brush, the steel brush. I'm using the steel brush for the groove area for the top piece. Now if you're going to clean the whole pan itself, I would recommend using the bristle brush. The bristle brush will be the plastic one. Let me see where I can show you one. So it'll be this material right here where it won't hurt you. So this is the one that you're going to use, and then you can clean the inside of it, get all that gunked out. I mean, I'm not looking for perfection. Obviously ain't nobody's going to look inside of here, but yeah. Then when going back inside, same thing. We need to make sure that this is fully cleaned. This is the most crucial part. And right here, you need to make sure our gaps are clean too as well. Same thing. There's going to be 4 contact points that we need to really worry about. So one right here, one right there, and then one right there, and then one right over there. So that one right there. This is a speed sensor. If you're able to take this off, I'm afraid if I take it off I might damage something. If you guys know in the video on how to take this off, please do. Basically I'm going to end up installing this. I'm going to loosen up this bolt right here. I believe it's an 18 or a 16 millimeter. I'll let you know. I'm going to loosen up this bolt so I can get it mostly out, because the pan kind of hits it when kind of going in. So this will make it easier during install. But the thing is that during installation, that this kind of guy hits the oil pan a little bit, and you'll kind of get in a little way. So for that, basically, you need to kind of test fit it a few times. I already test fit it about maybe 4 times. I'm trying to get like a technique, because the silicone needs to go in the oil pan. You can put it on here. It would be better if you can, but I'm just so used to putting it on the oil pan. We are going to put our contact points right here. So one right here and one right there. So on the mating surfaces, and then same thing for over there. That's where the silicone needs to apply. So we actually have to put it on the block itself. But I'm just trying to figure out the best tack plan for this process. So I think by putting it on the pan and being slowly careful with it, that I can successfully do the install. So I just want to make sure I don't damage anything. But yeah, I want to take this off, but then I'm afraid I might break it and I can't get the part, because I know there's quite a few discontinued parts. There's a little speed sensor right up there. I did take that off. That spins off literally. But I'm gonna put that back because I don't want to break this. But maybe for the next time, again, if you guys know how to take it off, again, put that in the comments. So like I said, I don't want to damage it. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get back to this. I'll show you how to apply the silicone in there. And then before we put on the pan tube, make sure that this area is cleaned prior with brake cleaner and a rag. So you'll put brake cleaner on the rag and then you'll wipe it right off the whole area and clean that up because we want to make sure. And then you'll put the silicone dabs right there. All right, so actually for this bolt, it's actually a 10 millimeter hex. So right there. So here's the hex that we're going to be using, so 10 millimeter. All right, so we're gonna, this is brake cleaner, and then we're gonna use a rag. So we're gonna go ahead and clean up our area. I just wanna give you an idea of how we're gonna clean it. So we're just gonna kinda go along our surface areas. Now we wanna make sure that this is nice and clean and dried up before we put in our silicone, just because we don't want this to leak. Now they do sell a gasket for it. I think it's like an updated version, but I'd rather use the silicone because the silicone was the factory spec. So obviously, if not, then if I have an issue, then I'm going to be doing this with the rubber gasket. So basically, make sure you get a can of this. I think these are around like 30 bucks. This is actually pretty good stuff. So this is the right stuff. 1 minute gasket maker. It's RTV. The right stuff. Part number is 85224. You can get this at your local auto parts store. So we'll just pull off that cap. And basically as soon as you pull this trigger. Alright. So basically the one that I got was bad. So basically, we're going to do this. This is take two pretty much. So you're going to kind of spin this back just a tad bit. And then right there, we're going to put some pressure. And then we can go ahead and squeeze this. Let me do a little bit more. And then we can see that right there. So there we have it. So now we're going to go ahead and apply this. We'll have a little cap right there. Let me wipe off this remaining amount. So after we do this, we need to knock this out pretty quick. Make sure you have your surface area on the frame tooth cleaned as well. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to have that cleaned. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So when you come near the bolt holes, make sure you kind of go around that. And then right here, make sure you fill up these guys, and so on. We're going to go ahead and keep doing this for the whole thing. Alright, so now we're ready for the install. I know some of you might criticize the whole thing. Again, I'd rather be more generous on it. So I gotta hurry up and do this. Alright, again, make sure your area is clean. And then I'm going to put some dabs, even though it's on the oil pan, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Alright, so now when we're putting in the pan, make sure you don't knock off any of the silicone. All right, so now we got it in, and now we're gonna start threading in the bolts. So we got it all in. We're gonna let this dry a little bit so we can get the remaining out. But for the most part, we're all said and done, as you can see. So we look pretty good all around. What you want to see is you want to see a bead coming out. If you don't see a bead coming out, you might be having an issue right there on that side. But for the most part, as soon as you're gonna bolt down all of these first. Now for the little ones right up here, this is gonna be your most crucial ones. I had to use a 3-inch extension with that, and so it was a little bit tight fit right there just because of this little bars in the way. Now if you feel like you're gonna have an issue, take this bar out, make sure it's out the way. You just take out, I think it's a 21 or 22 millimeter right there. And yeah, and then we'll go ahead and put back on these bolts. These bolts come on last. You put on these 3 bolts, so 1, 2, and then the one right up there, we'll put on all of those last. So I'm gonna tighten those, but I'm not gonna show that process. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and put on the intermediate shaft. Also, one thing to check, make sure that this bearing is good. So this one is spinning, so it's pretty good. So we're not in bad shape on that. So we'll come in first, we'll put this top hat in first. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and slide this right up. And we're just gonna push it right in. Alright, so here's the CV axle. This is a remanufactured. I just noticed it right now. Now, good luck on finding the CV axle. This is a pain in the butt CV axle, and if you do find one, it's going to be really, really expensive, like really expensive. So I found this CV axle. I spent about close to 450 bucks. But I can help you out with the part number. Right there, you're going to type in that 7D0407-271, A as in alpha. I don't think you need to do GKN. Let me double check. So, let me see. So yeah, so that's the part number right there. So again, that's a company that makes it. I believe it's a GKN. So, just in case, original GKN parts, but it's remanufactured. I didn't get charged the core price. I was checking online for this, but the thing that kind of irritated me was not to buy it online. was the whole sending the core back in and me getting charged on the shipping and stuff. So I lost more money. So I would have ended up spending more money on that. So there was a place here nearby. I ordered the part. They got it same day within a few hours, and voila, in my hands. Again, if you guys have a better resource of finding this axle, if you guys can do the research, that would be great for other people. What else? Let me see. That's pretty much it at this moment. So we're gonna go ahead and restart the installation, and yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and slide in this bad boy. Make sure that your shock is spin this way. Now, we can do one of two things. I'm gonna go ahead and lower bend down the lower control arm right there. So those are my pry points. Pry bore is pretty long. I think it's like a 36 or 42 inch, one of those two. So at the same time, I'm gonna lower that. I'm gonna kind of sit on it. Hopefully I don't fall. And then I'm gonna slide in the axle in between there because it'll make it a little bit more easier in that part. And then, while I have that going down, I'm just gonna lift up this shock just a tad bit, just enough. Again, so I can slide in this axle with ease. So we just Alright, so now what we're going to do next is that we're going to get the CV axle inside the rotor. So we're going to go ahead and slide this sucker right in. Alright, so we got this guy slided in. As I was putting this guy right in, I was using my knee, or my leg, my thigh, on the rotor as I was lifting that up. You can use a jack or something, try to get it lifted up so we can get this guy up on out of here. So we're going to try to center it. Alright, so I had to turn the wheel to make it straight because it was just sticking out too far to the right. So trying to see if we can get this guy right in. It is a little bit pain in the butt, I'm not gonna lie, centering it. So let's see if it's easier while putting it in while it's straight. Alright, so we got it in. I think I kind of figured out what my issue was. So I had to lower the lower control arm, and I think the ball joint was hitting against the rotor, so that's what was causing it. Yeah, so here you can see we got the axle in, fully seated in. So So the axle does come with the new hex, so we're going to go ahead and slide this right in. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and tighten this bolt. This one came with a 17 millimeter hex, so the one that we're going to be using is a 17 millimeter. So at the same time, we're going to go ahead and be installing the bolts, and at that same time, we're going to be spinning the rotor depending on which way how we want it. So make sure that you guys got this fully seated in. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and put on the lower ball joint. So we're going to go ahead and try to pull this back right over here. We need to bend this back into place. So with doing so, just grabbing whatever's nearby. So now we're going to go ahead and put in our bolt. This will probably be one of the most difficult parts, is aligning this. So right here, I got my pry bar. I didn't show that part, but I got my pry bar, put it in between the lip right here. So there's a lip right there, and then we put it under the lower control arm, and then we pry it right up on that. Make sure it doesn't slip, so try to get it in all the way, and then lift up at that time. And then for the rest of this, we're just going to hammer it right in. So we're going to put the pry bar back in, because now we need to get the bolt in there. So you got to hold it. Make sure you kind of get a little lip in there, and then we'll tap. All right, now we got it started. All right, let's go ahead and hook this guy right up. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and tighten this bolt. All said and done.